a serpent in the natural by grabbing its tail. You have to deal with a head. And you've ever seen those things, those people who deal with poisonous snakes, they will always first take control of the head, always. Whether it's a rattlesnake, if they take control of the head, that serpent, no matter how poisonous, cannot do a thing to it. Because it's all in the head, it's all in the mouth. They deal with the head. And this is a crucial spiritual secret in the spiritual realm. I want you to translate the serpent's head from being just an object in space to the realm of time. What is the serpent's head in time instead of space? Let me tell you what I mean. And it's going to be the beginning of something. If you see a snake coming by to bite you, the first thing is the head. So in time, it's the beginning of the attack of the enemy. It's the beginning, that first part is the head of the serpent. And in that way. So let me put it this way. When the enemy deals with you, when he tries to mess you up and attack you, he'll start often with thoughts. Thoughts, influences, snake thoughts, serpent thoughts, snake directives. All these things, that is the very beginning of that attack, of that temptation. That's the head of that temptation. That's the head. And the key is deal with the enemy with a head. Deal with the enemy at the very beginning of his attack. That's the serpent's head. Messiah gives a parable of a man who sows tares. He's an enemy of a man who owns the land, and at night he throws in these seeds of weeds. Well, the enemy sows seeds. It's a symbol of the enemy. The enemy deals with seeds, and if you're going to be successful in dealing with the enemy and overcoming him, then it's equivalent. Those seeds, that's the beginning of a tree. It's the beginning part, same principle. The head of the serpent, the very beginning of it. There's a scripture. I want you to look at Proverbs 5. And again, this is both spiritual and one of the most practical spiritual things you can ever apply for victory. Proverbs 5. And here is the advice as he speaks. My son, it says, stay away from the adulteress woman. It goes on, her feet go down to death, her steps take hold of Sheol. Verse 5. She doesn't ponder the path of life, her ways are unstable, she doesn't know it. So then, my sons, listen to me and do not depart from the words of my mouth. Keep your way far from her, and do not go near the door of her house, or you will give your strength to others and your years to the cruel one. So what's it saying here? Notice the principle. He doesn't just say avoid the adulteress. What he says is avoid the door. Stay far from the door, and that is crucial. Because it's one thing to deal with an adulteress, it's another thing to deal with the door, like the bedroom. But the door meaning the first part of sin. When it starts, when you're not in the sin, when it's starting, same thing. The serpent head of adultery here is deal with the door, and you won't have to deal with the adultery. If you stay away from the door, you're not going to be with the adulteress at all. So what's the key? How do you overcome sin? You strike the head of it. You reject the seed of it. You stay away from the door of it. You strike the head of sin as soon as it comes up. Meaning to overcome sin, learn this key principle. Don't deal with the serpent's tail. Deal with the serpent's head. Focus your battle at the head, the beginning of the attack, the beginning of the sin, the beginning of the temptation. Not the middle of the sin, not after you let that sin come in. God will give you strength for that, but that's not the way to overcome. You deal with the beginning, the head, as soon as it starts. One of the most important things. How do you fight? Well, say you were fighting a tree. You want to overcome a tree. Well, it's very hard to fight a tree. A tree is a lot stronger than we are. When I was, 13 years old in summer camp, and I had me and this girl had a crush, and I was walking away saying goodbye to her. And I'm saying goodbye, this is a little cute little puppy love thing, and I turn around and walk right into a tree. That's exactly what happened. And it was hard because a tree is much stronger than we are. But how do you deal, if you want to do something to a tree, the most effective way is deal with the tree when it's a seed. You see what I'm saying? Fighting lust after going through the door is very hard. When you're in a situation, when you let it in. You know what it is? I know someone who who did something, they were new in the Lord and they saw an old girlfriend and they let themselves get into the situation in their room, in the bedroom, and that was it, they fell. The problem with many believers is that they're dealing with snake tails instead of the head, or they're dealing with trees and roots instead of the seed. Trying to fight sin once you let it in, and once you let it into your mind. And again, God will give you the grace for that. But the key of overcoming is don't even deal with it then. When you deal with that, if the tree's already rooted, it's harder to get it up. Or dealing with temptation, and you don't do it with hedges or the door, you deal with the doors. You won't win that way. You would never deal with a snake by a tail unless you were very unintelligent. You would never do that. The secret here, rattlesnake, just a little pressure on the head, and that can't do a thing to you. So instead of getting bitten by that rattlesnake, that sin, that temptation, that habit, deal with the head. Example, if you had a